In this video, we'll demonstrate how to store text information and images in a database, implement login and create account functionality, add multi-language support, dark mode, and much more. Let's get started without further delay. Create a new blank application. Run the application immediately after creation, even though it's empty. Our application will have multiple tabs, so we need to create a new screen named Tabs and set its tabs property to true. We'll have three screens. The first will be About Us screen created from a template. The second screen will display a list of items from the database, created from a blank template. Remove the footer by setting the footer property to false and rename the header to items. The final screen will be created from a settings template. Return to the tab screen to add tab buttons. Rename the About Us tab label. Set the icon. Link it to the corresponding screen. Add two more tabs for the items and settings screens, configuring them similarly. Since screen 1 is currently the default, update the routing to make the tab screen the default. Test preview to see how the tabs function. I changed to dark mode, but the application remained in light mode because we haven't added the dark theme yet. I will add it. Click the refresh button to apply the latest changes and verify dark mode works. When switching to Spanish, all labels remained in English. The TypeScript folder contains a Spanish dictionary with all necessary key value pairs for English to Spanish translations. To expedite the process, we can instruct Appery to identify all texts and labels and set their internationalization property to true. Next, we'll locate and add all labels to the Spanish dictionary. The quickest way to translate labels is by using ChatGPT or another AI chatbot. Copy the translated labels and paste them into Appery's Spanish dictionary. Verify that the translations work as expected. Let's focus on the Items screen where we'll display a list of database items. Create a new database and collection named Items. The collection will have string columns for name and description, and a number column for price. Add two test records. We need to specify which database will be used in the application. For that, add the database ID setting into the settings service. The database ID can be obtained from the URL. Alternatively, the database ID can be found as the API key value on the Settings tab. The application will make a REST call and store the item list in a local variable. So let's create an items variable with an empty array as the default value. Items will load when the screen is created. We can use the screen's lifecycle methods. The init method is invoked during screen creation. Let's utilize it. Write the code, noting that the await keyword is required since the database API is asynchronous. Invoke the query method of the DB property, providing the collection name as the first parameter. For more information about Appery's API, refer to our documentation by opening the API Reference tab, navigating to the DB section, and finding the query method description. We'll use a list component to display the items. We only need one list item, so we'll remove the second one. Since items is an array, we need to add in for attribute to the list item element. Note that if your variable has a different name, remember to update it accordingly. We'll display the name and description in the list. Remove the default text value and add a new text component. For the item name, type the following expression. Add another text component. Sometimes, adding components in a particular place can be inconvenient. To simplify this, click the Copy Component button. Then select the item label and press Ctrl+V. To enhance visibility, change the container type to Note and set the text value to the item description. In the preview, we can see the list of database items. Currently, the editor shows expressions, but it would be helpful to see real values. We can achieve this by using the Text in Editor property, which only applies during design time. It would be great to enable item searching. For that, add a search component. To track user input, set the modal value to keyword. Since we don't have a keyword variable, a plus button will appear. Clicking it will automatically create the variable, saving time. Typically, we use if to hide elements, but for and if can't be used simultaneously. Instead, we'll use the hidden attribute to hide elements. For lengthy attribute values, click this button to input them in a pop-up. Appery includes many useful utility methods, such as hasString, which checks if one string contains another. Copy the example and paste it into the app, specifying that the item should be hidden if its name doesn't contain the keyword. Test the filtering functionality in the preview. To view full item details, we'll add a new item screen. Update the header and remove the footer. Item data should be passed to the screen, and the simplest way is to use a local variable. This screen should be modal, so set the modal screen property to true. Add a local item variable with an empty object as the default value. Add a form component as a container for input components, which will be used for validation later. Drag and drop an input component, set its label to name, and its modal to item name. For the description, use a Texturia component. Note that you can select the form, click the gear icon, and choose Paste. Follow the same steps for the description as for the name. Finally, add the price field. Return to the item screen and configure the list item to navigate to the item screen when clicked. Set the button property to true to enable clicking. Add a click attribute specifying the method to invoke when an item is selected. Name the method selectItem and pass the selected item as an argument. Add the selectItem function on the Code tab, marking it as asynchronous with an item argument. To show the modal screen, invoke the modal method with the modal name as the first parameter and the item variable as the second. Select an item to view its details. Everything works, but we can't close the modal screen. On the item screen, there's a toolbar with a button. Let's move it from the left to the right and add a button inside. Enhance the button's appearance and invoke the close modal method on click to close the modal. Now we can open and close item screen. To add update functionality, include a Save button. Set the top margin to 20 to position the button at the bottom. Clicking Save will invoke the Save method. Before saving, we'll validate the input values. Name and price are required, and the price must be at least 1. Required field labels are typically bold with an asterisk. To mark an input as required, set the validation required property to true and enable Show Errors to display error messages. Mark the price as required, set the minimum value to 1, and specify the input type as number to display a numeric keyboard on mobile devices. Additionally, we can add user-friendly placeholders. To trigger validation when the save function is called, enable the Check checkbox. Test the name and price validations in the preview. Like other functions, save should be asynchronous and invoke the database's save method, which accepts the collection name and the object to store. Update the price and click Save, then verify the record was updated in the database. To provide feedback, we can show a toast message by passing it as the third parameter to the save method. Invoke close modal to close the modal after saving. Update the price and name. Everything works well, but what if we click Close without saving? The item wasn't updated in the database but appears updated in the UI. This happens because the item screen uses the same object as the item screen. To fix this, pass a copy of the item. Appery includes the logout library, so we can use its methods. Use the following code to clone the item. We fixed one issue, but after saving, the item isn't updated on the item screen. To resolve this, return the save operations response as the modal screen's result. On the item screen, check the returned value. If defined, update the selected item's properties with the returned object. Both issues are now resolved. REST calls may take time, so we should indicate progress by showing a loading indicator. Enable the loading checkbox to achieve this. Additionally, enable the first checkbox to wrap the function code in a try-catch block, showing an alert if an error occurs. Test the loading indicator in action. To add a new element, we'll include a fab button. For quick implementation, import the fab plugin, which contains several examples. Select this one, copy it, and paste it into the content element on the item screen. Clicking the Add button will invoke the Add Item function, showing the item modal screen. Navigate to the item screen and input some data. The new record is created in the database, but it doesn't appear in the list. This happens because the new item wasn't added to the items array. To fix this, check if the modal screen returns an object and add it to the items array. Add a new test record and it appears in the list. To enable item deletion, users can swipe a list item from right to left. Set the item type to Item Sliding for this functionality. Rename the Option button and set the Delete button's color to Danger. Clicking Delete will invoke the Delete Item function. Pass the selected item as an argument. Add the Delete Item function on the Code tab. Before deletion, prompt the user for confirmation. Show an alert. If the user cancels, exit the function without deleting. If confirmed, invoke the database's remove method, passing the collection name and item. Include optional parameters for a toast message and set loading to true. This code removes the record from the collection and the items array for consistency. Test item deletion in the preview and confirm the action. If we cancel, the item isn't deleted, but the sliding remains active. To fix this, add a hashlist attribute to access the list component. Pass the list component reference as an argument to the delete item function. In the code, add list as an argument and call close sliding items after returning. Now, sliding closes properly. Verify in the database that the item is deleted. Often, we need to store binary data like photos or files in the database. To demonstrate this, we'll add the camera plugin. The plugin adds a camera screen. To test it, update the routing. The camera works on both mobile devices and web browsers. When taking a photo, grant camera permission. The camera activates. If you have multiple cameras, select the desired one. After taking a photo, return to the main screen to view it. All logic is in the Take Photo function. On mobile builds, the native camera is invoked. Otherwise, the browser's camera API is used via a modal screen. Line 6 includes optional image resizing code. Test the plugin using the Appery tester. Scan this QR code to test on a mobile device. We can test how the camera works on mobile devices. A common practice is to conduct primary testing in the browser and occasionally check on mobile devices. To move the camera screen logic to the item screen, select the content element and copy all child elements. On the item screen, select the form element and choose Paste. The camera screen also has an image variable and take photo function, which will move. Revert the routing back to tabs. Now, we can take photos on the item screen. Clicking Save won't save the image to the database yet. Update the Save function to handle this. Add a condition. If image is defined, upload it to the database. Pass the image as a base 64 string first parameter and a file name optional second parameter. Testing file uploads may result in an error because only authenticated users can upload files. To fix this, store the upload method's result in a file variable. If the upload fails, exit the Save function. All files are stored in a predefined Files collection. Click Create to view the file API specification. The Appery backend checks authentication via the Appery session token header. For testing, we can use the Appery master key header to bypass authentication. Later, we'll implement proper authentication. Add the Appery master key header with the corresponding value. Take a photo and verify the file upload in the database. The file can be downloaded and opened. This is our photo. Associate the item record with the uploaded file. Add a new photo column of type File. In the conditional block, add the following code. Take a photo, save the item, and check the new database record. Click the file reference to view it in a pop-up. When opening an item, the image isn't displayed. This is our next issue. Open Chrome's Developer Console. Refresh the application and check the Network tab to see all requests. Filter the requests and locate the query request. In the response, if the item has a photo object, the image URL is available under the File URL property. The image has ID and src properties that need updating. If image is undefined, try using item photo file URL. Do the same for src. Now, the image displays when selecting an item and can be changed. What if only authenticated users should access the application? Create a new screen from the login template. The screen currently lacks login logic. Username and password are stored in the Data Objects properties. Clicking Login invokes the login function. Implement the login function's logic. Invoke the database's login method, passing the data object. If login fails, exit the function. Otherwise, navigate to the tab screen. Set the login screen as the default. We don't have any users yet. Create a test user. Test with incorrect credentials. Then log in with the correct credentials. We've successfully logged in. Then we will add Create Account functionality. Create a screen from the Signup template. Like the login screen, it has a data variable. Implement the Signup function's logic. Invoke the database's Signup method with a data object. If successful, show a toast message and navigate to the login screen. To navigate from Login to Signup, click Create Account and set the route name to Signup. Similarly, on the Signup screen, clicking Sign In navigates back to Login. Test creating a new account. The screen shows fields like first name, last name, and phone. By default, the user's collection lacks these columns, so we'll add them. Create a user. The user is created. Log in as this user. We've logged in successfully, but users shouldn't see each other's items. Currently, the Items screen shows all items. To fix this, delete all records from the Items collection. Mark the items collection as secure, restricting access to authenticated users. Set the access control list property to creator, ensuring users only see their own records. Remove the Appery master key header, as it was a temporary workaround. Repeat the test. Log in as the first user, create an item. Then refresh and log in as the second user and create another record. The application lacks logout functionality, which we'll now add. Add a menu for this purpose. Open the app screen and set the menu property to true. Add a toolbar component to the header with some text. Include a list component for navigation. Remove one list item element. Customize the first list item to navigate to the About Us screen, set the routing value, and enable the button property. Add an icon to the list item by setting the slot property to Start and selecting an appropriate icon. Clone the About Us list item for the next item, updating its text, icon, and routing. Do the same for the settings screen. Add a logout menu item by cloning the settings item, updating the text and icon, and clearing the routing. Instead of routing, specify that clicking Logout invokes the logout function. Before logging out, prompt for user confirmation. If confirmed, perform a database logout and navigate to the login screen. Testing login. We don't see how to open the menu. To fix this, add a menu button to the screen headers. The About Us screen has a back button. Replace it with a menu button. Add a menu button to the items and settings screens as well. Log in. Open the menu, cancel logout, then confirm. Logout works, but the menu remains open. To fix this, note that the app screen has a menu control variable for menu access. Select the list component and add code to close the menu on click. Test login and navigate between screens via the menu. The menu closes and navigation works, but the tabs are missing. Update the routing paths for screens where tabs should appear by adding the tabs prefix. Log in as the first user, test navigation, then log out and log in as the second user. To test the app on mobile, use the Appery tester to scan the QR code and test login and item creation. As you see, everything works fine. Export the app as a binary APK for upload to Google Play. Once the build finishes, scan the QR code to download, install, and open the app on your phone. Conduct final testing. This was a long video, but we covered how to create, read, update, and delete records from database, login, Signup, and other useful things. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe to our channel.